You ever notice something? Every cheap way to live is slowly disappearing, guys. Living in an RV, more restricted. Tiny homes, banned in a lot of places. Camping long term, illegal. Sleeping in your car, ticketed. Even owning land doesn't mean you can live on it how you want to. And it makes you start asking a question. Why? Why does it feel like every exit door is being quietly closed? Because it's not just about housing here. And when people find a way to live cheaper, well, they step outside the system. And that's something the system doesn't like. Welcome back. If you're new to the channel, take a moment to subscribe. It'd really help out. Now let's talk about something a lot of you have been noticing, but maybe haven't yet put into words. There was a time when if life got too expensive here, you had options. You could downsize, move, live simpler, find a way. But now, well, those options are shrinking. They're regulated, they're priced out, or made illegal. And today I want to talk about that and why that is. Because when we start seeing the pattern here, you'll understand what I'm talking about. Have you noticed this where you guys are at? Are cheap living options disappearing or getting restricted? Tell me down below. I'd like to see how widespread this is, because I think it's bigger than we all realize. So, not long ago, people had options. If you hit hard times, you had fallback plans. You could live in a trailer. You could stay on a piece of land, camp for a while, fix something up slowly, and live rough for a bit, and rebuild. And it wasn't comfortable, of course not, but it was possible. There were exit doors, real ones, and people used them. And they got through hard times because those doors existed. But now, well, those doors are being locked, one by one, and quietly. Let's talk about RV living for a moment. Because for a lot of people, this is the last affordable option. Small space, lower costs, mobility, and freedom. Or at least it used to be. But now, well, cities are banning overnight parking. Walmarts are cracking down now. Counties restricting long-term stays. Campgrounds are raising their prices as they're being bought out by private equity. And lot rents are going through the roof. So when you try to live simply here, suddenly you're running into rules everywhere. Because RV living here breaks the model. You don't need as much, and you don't consume as much, and you don't pay as much either. And that creates a problem here for systems that rely on consistency. Now, tiny homes here should have been the solution, guys. They're simple, they're efficient, affordable, but what do we see here? We're seeing minimum square footage laws, zoning restrictions, permit requirements, and utility mandates. And you can't just build something small and live in it, even on your own land. Well, why? Because they don't want too small. They want standard. Because standard is predictable, and predictable is profitable. Now let's talk about the land ownership illusion here, because this one surprises a lot of people. You buy a piece of land, you think, well, I'm free. I can live how I want. Then reality shows up. There's septic requirements, building codes, inspections, utility rules, permits, fees. And you don't own freedom there. You're buying a piece of responsibility. inside a framework. And if you step outside that framework, you get corrected real quick. So you really need to do your research on the land you're looking to purchase. I made a video about this the other day. All right. Even the most basic fallback options here are disappearing. Sleeping in your car, illegal in many places now. And camping long term, well, that's becoming more restricted as well. And another thing I'm seeing here is our public land access is really starting to tightening up. Time limits are now being more enforced, and what used to be a safety net is now treated like a violation. And that's not accidental there, guys. That's a message. So why is this all happening? Well, good question. Let's step back and let's look at the pattern. Every low-cost alternative here, RVs, tiny homes, car living, off-grid setups, well, they're all facing pressure, restrictions, and barriers. Why? Because cheap living reduces dependency, plain and simple. And dependency is what the systems rely on here. So let's talk about the economic reality of all this. Let's slow down here a bit. Because this is where it really starts to click. When you live cheaper, you don't just save money, guys. You reduce pressure. And pressure is what keeps people locked in place. Monthly bills create urgency. Urgency creates compliance. And when you're under pressure here, you don't question things. You don't take any risks. And you don't say no. You survive. Now imagine the opposite here. Lower bills, lower needs, less pressure. Suddenly, guess what? You have space. You have space to think, space to choose, space to walk away. And that becomes power. What would it actually cost you to live a simple life each month? Think about that number for a moment. It's power. And here's the part a lot of people miss. The system isn't built for low-need people. It's built for high-obligation people. Because obligations drive participation here. And participation drives revenue. And I have seen this myself. The smaller I made my life, well, the less I felt owned by it. And of course it's not comfortable and it's not easy, but free in many different ways. Because when your survival cost is low, your fear of losing everything shrinks. And that fear is one of the biggest systems, one of the biggest tools, well, that the systems use. And here's something else, guys. When people live cheaper, well, they can also consume less. Less energy, less services, less products. And that affects revenue. Not overnight, but over time. And that matters. Because the system depends on movement, consumption, flow. And when that slows down, well, things shift. Cheap living isn't just a lifestyle. It's a disruption. A quiet one, but a real one. Okay, let's ground this a little bit, because I don't want this to be misunderstood here. This is about incentives. Governments want tax revenue. Developers want high-value builds. Banks want long-term loans. Utilities want consistent usage. Subscriptions want recurring payments. Everything leans in one direction here. More, not less. So when someone says, well, I'm going to live smaller, I'm going to use less, I'm going to need less, well, that doesn't fit, now does it? So it gets pushed to the edges. And it's not personally, it's structurally here. Have you ever tried to do something simple and felt like you hit rules everywhere? What did you run into? Was it permits, codes, fees, restrictions, inspections? I know it starts to feel personal, but it's not. It's an alignment. See, you don't need a conspiracy here to describe this, to explain a consistent outcome. You just need incentives pointing all in the same direction. Something else happens here too. People stop believing that there are alternatives. They accept that the system is fixed. I see it in my comments all the time. Expensive, complicated, required. And once people stop looking for the exits, the system doesn't need to close them anymore, because people start to close them in their own minds. So what can you still do about this? Let's talk about what matters here. Because we can't fix everything, not all at once, but we can fix some things. Start small. One pressure point. Is it housing, transportation, utilities, subscriptions, food? Pick one. Because trying to fix everything will overwhelm you. And overwhelmed people do nothing. They just continue to survive. But small ones, well, they stick. Cook some more at home. Fix something instead of replacing it. Cancel something. Drive less. Share some resources. And also, I really think skills matter more than ever. Cooking, repairing, maintaining, adapting. Every skill is money you don't have to spend. Also, community matters here too. Sharing, trading, and helping. Because that used to be normal in this country. And it can be if people choose it. And here's the shift, guys. Stop chasing more and start needing less. It's that simple. Because when you need less, they have less leverage over you. And that's not theory. That's real. All right, here's a bigger message. This is where it ties everything together, I think. Affordable, convenience, exit doors. Well, they're all connected, guys. The more dependent life becomes, the harder it is to step outside of it. And the harder it is to step outside of it, the more expensive it becomes to stay inside of it. That's the doom loop there. All right, here's my final thought. So maybe the real question isn't, why is everything getting expensive? Maybe it should be, why are the alternatives disappearing? Because that's where the real story lays. Not just cost, but our options. And yes, some doors are closing, but not all of them, and not all yet. And the ones that are still open, guys, well, they won't stay open forever. So if you see one, don't wait. I didn't. All right, outcasts, stay aware. And remember, you don't need to escape everything. Just reduce what owns you. I hope to see you on tomorrow's episode. And until next time, folks, let's rise together.